10 seconds. Good. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September the 11th edition of the Community Development Advisory Committee. Hopefully everyone had a good summer, and welcome back, and welcome to those watching at home. Roll call. We have everyone present here except with Councillor Wilsey, who was absent with notice, and we have 2 committee resignations, which we are going to get into that momentarily. Does anyone have any declaration of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the approval of minutes for the meeting on June 12th, 2023. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Palmer and Adrian. Any comments, questions, concerns about the minutes? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Presentations, delegations, petitions, communications. We, as mentioned, we've had a couple of resignations from the CDAC committee over our summer leave. Evan and Al, and I'll throw it to the director now to talk about our committee status right now and if we're still good or how do we move forward here, if we move forward at all.
Thanks, thanks, Chris. The terms of reference, we never changed it when the council appointed the additional 2 members, which were Adrian and Al originally. So it remains at 7, and then it says as per appointments bylaw. So if council wanted to add more, they could. We don't need to change the terms of reference. From a staff perspective, 7 members from the community or 9 members from the community is irrelevant to our workload. The room is full now, so I'll leave it up to the committee. There's no need to make it larger. It just becomes more hands to feed.
Thank you. Councillor Falkman.
Yes, since I was the person that brought up the 2 additional members, it was primarily because of the knowledge that they held from previous terms of council, so I see no reason to add to the committee.
Anyone else? Director Littleborn, we don't need a motion or anything, just stay as we are, right? Okay, any other questions? Okay. Oh, and I forgot to mention they both communicated their intent to resign to Director Littleborn and myself for personal reasons. So I forgot to add that at the start. Okay, unfinished business. We'll go to 5.1, customer surveys.
No update. I promise to bring something to the next meeting. Maybe I shouldn't promise that, but it's not that it's not important. It's just the urgent swallows the important. It seems to lately anyway. So we don't want to lose track of it. So we'll remain there until we bring you something back.
5.2 event safety plan checklist. We have a recommendation on the table. Did you want to comment on where we are with that? So we're looking for. Were you going to say something? Because your mic turned on.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I just made the changes that Councillor Wilson brought forward with regards to some grammatical stuff. Okay, everybody you saw that? Good there? So we're looking for a recommendation for CDAC to recommend that council approve the event safety plan checklist. So we're Councillor Falkman and Jagger is seconder. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Reports of committees and departments. Progress through partnership. Right, 6.1, list of projects. That would be you, Director? It's just there as a continual reminder of the projects that we have identified as well. If members of the public who do go through our agenda packages see it, it might spark an interest on one of those items. So it's not that there's any work that needs to be done on it, it's just more of information.
So looking for the reports to be approved by the CDAC committee. So we need a mover and a seconder. Brad, and seconded by Councillor Falkman. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Falkman.
Just when you're looking at the last section of the cost range, and it was an outdoor movie screen, I'm assuming that was not of the portable variety that we purchased in the summer.
Correct. That was, it was still a portable variety, but it was a much higher end equipment. So we've been able to get what we require to execute the movies. Now, the longevity of that equipment may not be as long as if we were to spend the value that you see on the list. So.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion that's seconded on the floor. Any other comments, questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. 7.1 under new business, recreation year-to-date update. I'm going to Paul here, or yourself?
You can start with Paul. I'm going to pull up a quick PowerPoint presentation that we quickly pulled together for tonight's meeting, just to show the some of the advances that we've made. So you can pass it over to Paul.
Okay, we'll go to Paul. The floor is yours, Paul.
Thanks. I'll do a little lead-in while Rob keys that up. I'll just give you an update on the summer. We had what we would deem a great summer for programming. Our totals certainly were record highs for most of the programs. You'll see them in the graphs that Rob's going to pull up. Camp, we hit 1,614 registrations. So I don't know if everybody can see that or not. I know I can't. But
Okay, so I can, what Paul can see is, so the numbers that you see on the screen is camps that we've offered. So Christmas camp, March break camp, PD day camps, as well as summer camp. So you can see that in 2023, we've done 1,988 camps. So that's registrants to the camps. So that is, well above the 1,500 that we did in 2022. 480 odd people. So that's a significant increase year over year. But you can see it's been a trajectory since 2017 when we introduced camps. When we didn't know what to expect, and we had 352. Campers, and then it slowly increased from there. And then we had 1 year where 2020 with the pandemic, we didn't run our summer camp program, and there were, I don't even know if we ran many camps outside of, I'm not sure we ran March break or whatever, it doesn't matter, we had 20 registrations. So, but 2020 is the oddity, but as you can see, it continues to grow, and the only thing that's going to stop us from growing is space. And we continue to try to be creative with regards to where we can find space. So those numbers are astounding to me, which is also shares with some of the successes for our revenues. And so we had, between this year and last year, we have about $74,000 increase in revenue just through camps. So that's a significant increase again from year over year.
And that number that you're seeing for 2023 is an ongoing total. There's still more to come. So, yeah, it's not even done. It should eclipse 2,000.
Yeah. So if you want to move into aquatics, which is another area that the department continues to see some growth. We did some things a little differently with swim team, and I'll let Paul talk to how we manage the swim team, but you can see that our swimming lessons were 722 in 2023 and 639 in 2022. So again, growing with that respect. And then the total for the swim team in 2023 was 78, and in 2022 was 61. Again, we've had growth there, but that's because we've chosen to manage the swim team a little differently, and I'll let Paul talk to that.
Yeah, thanks. So this year, we've talked about it for a couple of years now and wanted to try it, but we did a recreation team this year. So we do a competitive swim team, and when it comes to registration, we've had years, and this year no different, that we sell out in a matter of a couple days, and then we have the calls that say, hey, I wanted to get my kid on the team, and you're all filled. So what we did is we opened up a recreation team, then we held tryouts for the competitive team, and anybody that didn't make it or just wanted to do the recreation team could. So went super well. They get all the same benefits that you do from the competitive team, minus the travel meets. We do little in-house meets, but other than that, the instruction and everything was the same, and it really gives those kids that extra opportunity to get in the pool and be a part of the team as well. So that's where we were able to grow there, and that should still allow us, because the recreation team was an add-on once our registration came in this year, that we can probably grow upon that next year. There's not a lot of opportunity in the pool to grow unless we're going to expand our hours, because we are maximizing our space right now. The puzzle pieces you'll see when we're doing swim lessons at times to make sure that we can get everything in, and then squeeze some lane swims and aquafit and around the public swims. It's like I say, a little bit of a puzzle piece at times, but we're maximizing our space, and now, like I say, we're running out of that space in the pool with the times that we do. So unless we're gonna go till 9, 10 o'clock, actually we go to 9 o'clock during the week anyway, to 10 o'clock during the week, or if we're gonna go past 6 o'clock on the weekends. We've already started going earlier by introducing that recreation swim team on Saturdays. So that's really our only option to grow, and whether those times are going to be desirable for the public to expand upon is something that we'll find out. But again, really good year. And on that last chart, if you remember, you'd see kind of a little bit of a dip down and then back up. And we've talked of how that somewhat references the start of our summer camps and the aquatic camp, which tapped into those numbers a little bit. But then, as you can see, as our community grows and as the popularity grows, we've got back up to those numbers and surpassed them, while we continue to hit the numbers that we do with aquatic camps. So that facility, the fairgrounds on its own is a hot spot for recreation now that, 5-6 years ago wasn't quite the same.
So this slide has our aquatic, our aquafit and lane swims. So you'll see it's, again, during the pandemic, we were kind of limited in how we were to function the pool. So you'll see that the numbers have kind of flipped, right? So lane swim was something that you could do pretty much as an individual. Aquafit, sometimes you end up getting crammed in a little bit and so on. 2019 is when we introduced aquafit and lane swims. So we just started growing, and then we hit a boom. And then again, we look at 2023, we've hit 1,340 aquafit registrants and 739 lane swims. So again, it's numbers that are very impressive. Again, the pool is going to be limited in how we expand the pool unless we figure out how we can extend its operations with regards to daylight hours. And that's going to mean some capital investment if we were to choose to go later into the evenings, like 11 o'clock at night kind of stuff. Whether or not the benefits there, the expense outweighs the revenue, we haven't done that evaluation yet. So Paul, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add.
No, we're not really.
Do we still have another slide of aquatics?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So this slide is your public swim. Again, so in 2023, oh, that's disappointing, it didn't give me the numbers. So in 2023, I can tell you because I've got the chart right here. Public swims, we did 16,423 public swims. And in 2022, we did 14,653. So a difference of about 1,800 people, which is, again, a significant increase year over year. And that's just, you know, is it increased campers? Is it population density? Is it how we're programming the pool differently than what we've done in the past? I'm going to say it's a combination of all of that. Now, some of those, when we do the full, we'll do a full presentation to council, and we'll talk about revenues and everything. But public swim, based on the admissions, when you come and pay for a public swim, is actually down $777.39, yet we're up in number of swims. And that accounted for in the membership module that we've created. And we brought in revenue of about almost $17,000 in membership purchases. Compared to 2022, we brought in $6,200. So again, a difference of about $10,000 there with regards to revenue. So significant, again, how we're trying to manage the pool and provide different options that fit the residents' buying habits as well as their ability to get to and from the pool. Paul, I don't know if you have anything to add.
The only thing I wanted to add is that you can see that increase in numbers, which is great. And for all of us that know, we've not had the greatest summer of weather when it comes to rain. That increase with memberships, I think, has really impacted our numbers. And if we'd had the summer that we had the last year, I think you would see those numbers considerably higher. So if we have a really good summer next year, I think you can see those numbers continue to grow exponentially, because the memberships gives that option now for people to come as much as they want versus paying as you go. So again, it's another shot in the arm for introducing the membership modules, and I think they're just going to continue to grow in popularity. And we want that. We want our assets used, and people, the community, coming out and using it as much as they want and can. And if Councillor Brennan was here, he would share as well how much he enjoys the pool, and probably a real good advocate for both sides, for council and for the community.
I think Councillor Brennan told me at the last council meeting he was down to $1.33 per visit on his membership. So,
Any questions for Rob or Paul regarding summer recreation numbers? Councillor Buckland?
Not a question, but more of a comment. First off, I think that the Aquafit is a sign of word of mouth, and Councillor Brennan's relentless advertising of the fact that he was the only male participant for such a long time may have helped those numbers. Just kidding. The point that I wanted to make is in regards to the Mountain Bridges Arena when we get to that point and the management of it. And when I think back to the time when we were considering building an indoor aquatic facility, the only option that we really had to try and drive revenue out of that was to partner with the YMCA. And at the time, we didn't have staff who were doing programming. And, you know, there's been a maturation of staffing here and what we're able to do. And the numbers, I think, demonstrate why we would no longer consider partnering with someone like the YMCA. And I get that question quite regularly, which is why I'm bringing it up. So if anybody on the committee gets a question about how is it going to be managed, while we haven't actually made a decision on that, the likelihood is we'll probably manage it ourselves because we can program just as good as anybody can. So.
Any other questions or comments, Steve?
Just a question on staffing. Did you have a problem with it, or how did it go, or did them lowering the age help you, those type of things?
You just made the segue that I was going to make comments on. So yeah, no, it did. We were in, I don't know if I would say that we were in jeopardy of not being able to run the pool, but we were in jeopardy of being able to run the pool as effectively as we did because of those restrictions. Staffing for, even just for the summer is difficult now. There used to be a time when we had the pick of who we wanted and oodles and oodles of resumes. And now we're hiring, you know, anybody that's qualified that can do it sometimes. Qualified and appropriate, so hopefully I'm not misrepresenting there. But now lowering that age limit, we were able to, and we've implemented junior guards as well in the last couple of years, just to give that complement, so there's extra eyes around the pool as well. And we had a couple slide attendants this year as well. Just making sure, because of our numbers growing, that we can provide the experience and keep things as safe as we can. And shout out to Brad Sheeler, our aquatic supervisor, and his team. They did an awesome job. But lowering that age limit is going to help us sustain what we can do and continue to consider growth as well. Moving, if we looked at something that was a year-round facility, the staffing would definitely be the number one, well, certainly be up there in the difficulties of running an operation like that.
Thanks, Paul. Good question. Steve, anyone else? Quick follow-up, Steve, go ahead.
I just wondered if there was anything to say towards the quality of the program. Like, did you feel that it could have been offered better? Could have been offered differently? Is there things that, you know, we could do as a committee that would help you facilitate a better experience or better numbers or those type of things? I'm just wondering if you saw some shortcomings in what was experienced, even though you had great growth. Was there something?
No, absolutely, and I can share with you, like, we had a younger team this year, younger than we've ever had, and it was a large team as well. So the experience wasn't there the way that it has been in the past. So it was a growing year. It was a transition year for sure. So, you know, we had little bumps and things along the road to start. I mean, this committee can always encourage council to put more money into aquatics, and I wouldn't discourage you from doing that. But yeah, I think always judge our season and our teams by how we finish. How we started is one thing, but we finished and brought that quality to, I think, a standard that everybody at this table and that sits at these tables would be proud of. But it took a lot of work to get there. So what we should benefit from now is having a really young team this year, should transition to next year having a much more experienced team that we can continue to roll over and keep that quality up. So yeah, we'll always do. I mean, they're never going to be perfect, and there's always going to be areas to improve upon. So yeah, we'll keep working to that.
Yeah. One of the things that I can add to that is the aquatics team, but not just the aquatics, the camp team as well. But we don't start programming the pool until third week of June, but we've hired our staff well before that, and they go through some very comprehensive training prior to having public in the pool. And for 2 years in a row, we've had 2 near misses with regards to drownings in that pool. And both of them have been successful, right? So we don't need to call them drownings, we can call them near misses. But that's all because of their training. And I would not want to go backwards and say, well, let's, we'll save $3,000 or $4,000 by not bringing the staff in until, the first week or second week of June. We have a way of doing things, and it's proven to be successful. So I wouldn't want to tinker with that end of the program. Where we tinker every year is how the program gets laid out. If there's a way that we can be more efficient, or if there's a way that we can get more bodies in the pool, and it's a matter of staff sitting there with us in the office going, well, if we move this here, we can put this over there, and that's going to get us another 10 people in the pool. Or let's create a recreational swim team, because not every individual who comes out for the competitive swim team should really be on a competitive swim team, right? So we've created those opportunities for the residents and their children to have greater access to programs. So a lot of it is learning as we progress through this. Now we've had 8 years with the pool, and we continue to tinker with it every year. And as we tinker with it, it continues to improve. So we are going to run out of time and space though eventually. So you'll start to see stuff start to level off, but we'll do our best to make sure that we have a continued trajectory of upwards, but it may not be as significant as we've had in the past.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to 7.2, Fall Recreation Program Registration. Is that yourself or is that is Paul? We'll turn over to Paul again.
Thanks, Ken. I'm just gonna pull up my information. We've really been working towards regrowing the program. And one of the areas that we're really focusing in on is seniors programming. So we have some new stuff that we've added to our menu starting this fall. We've got we've got a cornhole program, we've got some dance fit, we've added to our yoga, really balancing out sports with some fitness as well. It continues to grow really well. We've added a chair yoga to our regular yoga program, and it's sold out in less than a week, I think. Really trying to, and then we continue to partner with the VON as well on their smart fitness. So I think we've got another program that may be coming online, but I'm not going to say too much until it gets there. But with our Tai Chi, our yoga, like I said, we're going to be adding a dance fit. We've got our walking program continuing. I mentioned the cornhole, pickleball continues to be a huge hit and grows and grows and grows. We've got 2 nights during the week, and we could probably run a third one if we want to kick other people out of the gym for the pickleballers. But and our daytime program continues to grow, and we will be adding programs online this week for Mount Bridges to start running pickleball there as well, and possibly one of our exercise programs along with the jamborees that we started last year. So continue to grow that complement of seniors programs, and I do have some information for you, Donna, that you can share as well. So continues to go well. Our rec stuff with basketball and badminton, we're getting junior carpenters, and robotics is up again. We're having a hard time finding somebody to run our junior chefs program, and as we've talked in the past, we don't want to run these programs if we don't have somebody qualified to do it. So if we have people out there listening that are looking to volunteer and are industry trained chef, then we would love to have your services. All sorts of things going on. I don't know if anybody has questions, but we continue to grow. Again, the numbers that Rob showed. Did you show the rec numbers too?
I did, yes.
Yeah. Those, we're looking to surpass our records again this year. We're almost at the same number of participants as last year, and we still have this quarter to go. So again, programs continue to grow, and we're continuing to work towards keeping that high level of quality there as well.
My apologies, Paul, I did not show the rec numbers.
I thought maybe I missed something,
I
and
don't remember seeing them either.
well, you could have said something.
Well, you were talking, I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah.
I'll share them now.
Okay. That explains any of the confused looks that came my way as well when I said those have been shared.
So you can see, since after the pandemic and the inclusion of the seniors programming in our community, our registration numbers have jumped dramatically. You can see in 2019, just before the pandemic, we were again moving upwards year over year. And then the pandemic hit, and then we absorbed the seniors programming, and then we've continued to bring on youth programming as well as the seniors programming. So in 2022, we had 2,038. In 2023, we currently sit at 1961. So we will exceed 2,038 well before the end of 2023.
Councillor Pammer.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. One is in regard, sort of a follow-up on what Steve was talking about in future use in Mount Bridges for arena/community sort of facility. What I would be interested to know is how much participation in rec programs currently, like what's the uptake in Mount Bridges for rec programs? Obviously not a pool, they don't have a pool. But to me, that would give some indication as to, you know, if you run a program in Mount Bridges, or if there's lots of people asking for programming in Mount Bridges, that would give me some sort of indication of what maybe the new facility should include based on what people are asking for or signing up for in Mount Bridges. So do you, I'm assuming you divide up those stats, or you could get that for us.
Yeah, so we do have residency information, because when people register, we get their addresses. So we can gather up those people who are from Mount Bridges and identify the number of people who are participating in our recreation programs that are currently being offered that are from Mount Bridges. But I don't know if that will give you a true picture, because you're going to see people who will, in Mount Bridges may gravitate to Kamoka because they're playing hockey and a brother plays hockey in Kamoka, or their parents work in London, that kind of thing. So I don't think you'll get a true picture of the usage that that facility may see from a recreation perspective. We're going to start trying to offer different programs. Paul and I have talked about running some a test camp, maybe next summer, do 1 week of camp, see how it sells. The challenge that we have is we don't have a lot of amenities within Mount Bridges compared to what we have here at the Fairgrounds Recreation Complex. The pool is a big attraction. The beach volleyball courts, the Sleepy Hollow Railroad, right? Those amenities help us sell our programs. Now, we build a new facility in Mount Bridges and we put in a full-size gymnasium with proper breakout rooms and equipment. You're going to, over time, Mount Bridges on the master site plan has amenities like pickleball courts and tennis courts and skate parks and so on, but that's going to take time to build. The Fairgrounds Recreation Complex, I've been here for almost 11 years. And it's only been the last 2 or 3 years where we've really seen a change on that property. So I believe in time, you'll see those amenities build in Mount Bridges as we move along and the community can get behind them. But I wouldn't want to hang your hat on the registration numbers for Mount Bridges in Strathroy as the determining factor on building a center there.
Councillor Graham, do you have a second question?
Yeah, well, just to follow up to that, I think what I was going for, because I understand what you're saying, I mean, because someone might not even have transportation or it might not be convenient would be a reason why they don't come. But I guess what I'm trying to understand, and maybe it happened in the consultation portion, but programs that you are running in Mount Bridges, are they well received? I guess that's.
So we haven't run any programs outside of the Junior Chefs program. The facility that we currently have there isn't set up for, I want to say, the sports types programming, because it's not big enough, and B, there's some memorial items in the building that I know I wouldn't want to be attaching a basketball hoop to, and that kind of stuff. So the facilities are limited. That's why Paul and I, we've chatted about running a couple test balloons in Mount Bridges. One would be a week-long camp. Another one may be, well, we're going to be running pickleball in this fall and the winter, so we'll see how those pick up. So, we just don't have the venues right now to offer those types of programs.
Yeah, question number 2.
Question number 2.
Just to comment though on when we have run programs there for the junior chefs, we would get people from Strathroy that would travel to Mount Bridges as well. So probably see a little uptick in having Mount Bridges residents at that program, but it wasn't significant in the long run. And vice versa, when we run it in Strathroy, we get Mount Bridges residents that will come to the program. So I guess in those regards, with a new facility, if we program it well enough, we'll fill it. Yeah.
Okay. So my second question was about a comment you made, and I've had people in the community ask me, why are you looking for volunteer professionals to do things like junior chefs or carpenters? Why would we not pay them? Because they are professionals and they're taking their time. We pay other staff. Day camp staff aren't volunteers. Lifeguards aren't volunteers. We pay staff for all kinds of recreation. And I'm just wondering why you decided to go that route, and whether it was something you could look at, particularly if you can't get volunteers, to run these sorts of programs.
Paul.
Yeah, it's certainly something that we've looked at and will do where we need to. It's keeping the cost down. If we're going to start paying all those people that run our programs, especially if we're going to pay them industry rates, then it's going to have to be reflected in the cost of the program, and then the program that we're charging $200 for right now probably goes to $300, $350, and I think we start pricing ourselves out of the market and having a program. So that's why we try to get volunteers to help run the program, but it is something that we've considered and something that we would do if we needed to, because we don't want to go too long without running a program because it loses its momentum. So yeah, certainly something that we've considered, but it's a budget item.
And we do volunteer recognition, so it's not as if it's necessarily 100% free. There is some recognition given to them. We haven't had that big of a challenge finding volunteers who are willing to offer up their time. A lot of it is they're mentors, and they've always been mentors. So they like passing along that knowledge. But as Paul says, it's not something that we would definitely say no to. But it's something that we want to make sure before we go down that road that we would have the support of this group, but as well as council before we start looking at some of those expenses. Because as Paul and I have developed these programs, and I should say Paul's developed the programs, the whole goal is to stay revenue neutral. We don't want these programs to be costing the municipality. So we're on the positive side of cash flow. But if we start going down that road of that approach, then that may change, because we wouldn't be able to increase those fees to $350 and then tell people we're affordable, because that would be a challenge.
Councillor Falcon.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, in case anybody heard it, I was typing. I forwarded you some names of people who I know are qualified to run the junior chefs program. I just didn't want to mention their name in open meeting. Two things. So in regards to seniors programming, certainly during the election campaign, and I've heard it since, one of the primary issues that seniors are telling me is that they don't know where to find the information, and that there should be a seniors newsletter or something. So just wondering if maybe, since we now have some concrete and developed programs that have regular consistency, that maybe in one of the tax bills we could send out a one-pager that is just about seniors programming. rather than mix it up with the rest of the newsletter. The other question I have is, since pickleball is clearly putting us in a pickle for space. Sorry, I couldn't resist that. I'm just wondering about the building that we own there on the corner by the old train station. If I know there's some asbestos issues in that building, but if that's a possibility to move some of the programming that doesn't necessarily need gymnasium space or large conference room space, if that's an option to run some of the programs out of, to free up space that need larger capacities.
So you're talking about 40 Metcalf?
Yes.
Okay. It's not ideal. To do a renovation, to make it usable, we're probably in the $1 million range. There is some structural concerns with the building, as well as some designated substances that we need to deal with. The ceiling heights don't work well for pickleball or any type of sports. You might be able to look at doing art classes or lessons out of that space versus more physical activity-based programming.
I was thinking more like cards and chess.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Those kinds of activities.
Okay. That's all doable. Again, we'd have to sit down with and get some designs done up, which we have funds available for doing that in our operating budget. So I can work with an architect and see what we can come up with.
I didn't really mention the cards as much in my recap, but we've been doing a bunch of those programs as well. And space for that hasn't really been much of an issue. We've done them in the Westcast room at Gemini. We've done them in the boardroom at West Middlesex, and we're exploring using either the Hartford or Wendigo room in Mount Bridges as well to see if we can start some up there. So those more passive programs, I think that's lesser of our space concern than it is gym space. We've kind of tapped out our what we have for ourselves, and both what we can get at the high school, which is the optimal place for programs that we're looking to run. So just add that in.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Director?
If I can just add to the communication piece, I know that at the market, I've had several people ask me, about how we communicate, and some people like print stuff, and I don't know the bang for the buck is there going through print media, but we do have utility billings that get sent out every 2 months now. And those go to the residents, not necessarily the property owner. So that's another avenue that we can put in information with regards to seniors programming or recreation programming, not just necessarily the tax newsletter as well.
Councilor Kaufman?
Yeah, that's why I was suggesting, maybe once a year that you can put out with the sustained programs that are going to happen over and over again. But my own experience with seniors is that you're probably hitting about the 30% level that are using a computer. I know over the course of time that will change, but at the moment we're still a significant number of senior population that don't use computers.
Any other questions, comments? Steve?
These programs that we run, I'm not really familiar on how you do the cost analysis of that. Do you look at the materials, the staff cost, the facility costs? Is it rented from the community? Is it given freely? How are those done calculating wise? Because if we're looking at building a facility in Mount Bridges and adding all those things to it, let's say the facility would cost $30 million. Are we looking at the taxpayer basically funding all of that, and those programs just basically funding themselves and not paying for the facility? I do know that you said the arenas are run at what, 50% loss or something, or 50% recovery you're trying to do. So these programs we're running here, is any of that recovery calculated into that at all for the actual taxpayer?
Director Lower.
So we, when we figure out the cost to run the program, all of the costs that you mentioned, such as materials, labor, equipment, that sort of stuff, are all factored into the program costs. We do not charge ourselves for the facility. We don't use the facilities. The facilities are always open when we're using the facilities, so we don't have the labor component with regards to the operation of the facility. We have the labor component as part of the programming of the facility, but we do not charge ourselves a rental fee back to the program. So that is not part of that cost analysis. If we were to sit down and take a look at the overall costs, I would say based on the revenues that we're making, we would probably end up breaking even as a recreation department. So we have a profit, and I'm spitballing, about $100,000. So that $100,000 goes to the bottom line of our operating budget. So in essence, yes, we are offsetting those losses within those buildings. It's just not being applied specifically to West Middlesex or the Gemini or the Caradoc Community Center, if you understand what I'm saying.
Follow up? Yep.
So essentially, if we take our arenas and we rent them out to minor hockey, with that, we're recouping money for that facility. Is it just we're recouping the operating expenses, 50% of the operating expenses, or are we adding in the capital costs of our facility to look at recouping that as well?
When we look at our facility rental fees, it is only operational expense. So if ice time is $200 an hour and we sell it for $100 an hour, that $100 an hour goes to the operating expense, not the capital expense.
Okay, good couple of questions, Steve, thank you. Any other questions towards fall recreation registration? Okay, thank you. 7.3, ice allocation policy. Did you want to speak to this before we go to the recommendation, or?
Sure. Just quickly, you can see I sent around 2 documents. One's a red line, and the other one is the finalized version. The red line, it's primarily just grammatical cleanup, the changing of Parks and Recreation to Community Services, adding commas and that kind of stuff. The biggest change or significant change is around payment of fees. Now, we used to allow the minor sporting groups, or our seasonal users as we would call them, to use the ice first and then pay us later. We've decided, and with conversation with the user groups, we did have a user group meeting prior to us making this change, having the invoice go out at the beginning of the month. And then if they use more ice during that month, it would just get tacked on to their next month's bill. If they use less ice than what the invoice that went out is, they'll have a credit going into the next month's bill. The other item that we talked about was if they're 30 days delinquent, past due, interest starts being applied at 1.25%. And then if they're more than 60 days past due, that generates a report to council with the recommendation of suspension of the ice until such time as they are brought current. We don't have a big issue with outstanding invoices. We have a couple, but nothing that, not a large number. So this will help us make sure we maintain a low number. When I started here, there were several organizations that had several large outstanding invoices. And we've been able to shrink that down. But we continue to have some repeat offenders that we would like to try to rein in a little bit. And then also, as Director Dakin would like to say, we're not a bank. So, giving out money and not collecting anything on past due accounts is typically not a way of doing good practice. So it also encourages people to pay their That's the biggest change. I did have an email earlier today, and I appreciate getting emails prior to the meetings. On 11.0, where it says spring and summer ice, where it says approximately May 1st to August 30th, well, it's August 31st. There's 31 days in August. And then the other thing was 11.2, where it says spring and summer ice begins the day following the winter season, which is in brackets May 1st up to Labor Day. I just struck out Labor Day. It doesn't need to be there. So other than that, I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments with regards to this policy. This policy's been in effect for about 10 years now.
Councillor Kramer.
Just to confirm, this policy is in effect for the 3 ice pads in Strathroy. It does not include Mount Bridges.
That is correct.
And just for the benefit of the group, why does it not include Mount Bridges?
Because the municipality doesn't manage the Tri-Township Arena. It's run by a board of directors.
Okay. Any other questions? Steve.
Of the people renting our facilities, how many would be renting them for a profit or for a gain, and how many wouldn't be? And if they're not renting them for a profit or a gain, I don't really see why, if they're promoting youth hockey or recreational hockey, that we would have to go about charging them interest on monies if they're delinquent. And is this just a practice we're starting, or has it been a practice before?
So in the past, I'll give you an example. We had a outstanding debt of, correct me if I'm wrong, $24,000 for months. And until staff threatened to cancel their ice time and not allow them to use the ice time, we started to see payments. Well, staff don't have the ability to suspend ice. We'd have to come to council and get council on board with that. Making this change gives us that ability to not just be an idle threat. That after 60 days, the policy would then generate a report to council, and then council would have to make a decision. The interest, again, at 1.25%, it's not really the minor sporting groups. We haven't really had a huge issue with minor sporting groups. The for-profit businesses, we don't typically have a problem with because they're paying us regularly. And there's not a lot of for-profit business. Summer camps is really when we see the for-profit business. We've got we got 2 junior teams, 1 junior team in Strathroy and a senior team in Strathroy, and then a junior team in Mount Bridges. But again, they're all not-for-profit organizations, right? But just because it says not-for-profit doesn't mean they don't make a profit. It just means they're not for-profit.
Okay. Anyone else? You good to go to? Okay. We have a recommendation that the committee recommend council approve the ice allocation policy. Need a mover and a seconder for that. Adrian and Councillor Palmer. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 7.4, community garden proposal. Do you want to talk to that as well before the recommendation? Okay.
Sure. The community garden, again, this is something that we've chatted about, and I've had a service club has come forward and has shown some interest, and would like to partner with the municipality on this program. The challenge is we don't necessarily have a specific location yet, and that's one of the reasons why we're here tonight. Is I need some direction with regards to getting buy-in from this committee, which will then we take to council, and then council can either agree or disagree. We don't see phase 1 as just really building the boxes and getting the soils and getting ready to run the program. The overall development of that park, that parcel, could take a number of years. No different than the fairgrounds recreation complex. We would look at building it in stages. one of the reasons why that location was chosen was it is a large parcel, and it can sustain more than one activity going on in it. But it's within 600 meters of the Fairgrounds Recreation Complex. And the Parks Recreation Master Plan talks about approximately 500 meters. There should always be another park, right? So everybody has access to parks and playgrounds. So that was one of the reasons why we chose that location, and it frankly has sat dormant for the last 4 or 5 years. So we want to be doing something with that parcel. I know there was a member who emailed me and had mentioned another location just down the road, which is, I refer to it as Warbler Woods. It's between Spence and Trout Haven. And we have constantly been told we can't build on that parcel, put anything on it, because there is a large storm sewer that runs through that property. Now, I spoke with the Director of Engineering and Public Works today, and that storm sewer went in 2012. And he does not have a problem if we choose to relocate this community garden to that location. He wouldn't have too big of a concern, as long as we're not building, pouring foundations and stuff like that, because we don't want to damage the storm sewer. But he says if we were to put a parking lot on top of the storm sewer, he says your asphalt will fail before I need to repair the sewer. So that is another option.
Director, you turn your mic on, please. Thank you.
You should have mentioned that to me a while ago.
Could you repeat all that, please?
Well, you don't want to hear me talk anymore. Let me see. Let's see if I can. I don't think I can make that any bigger. But if you, this is the piece of the parcel that I'm talking about, is right where my cursor's going around now. So this red line is the storm sewer that cuts through that property. So we could easily build the gardens and stuff, and the director said he didn't have a problem with us putting in a parking lot or something that goes over top of it, because chances are the asphalt would fail before he needs to do work on the sewer. The park that we were thinking of is right here. So it's not that much further away from what we were anticipating, and to some degree maybe safer to utilize this space, because it's not on a curve where you may have cars entering and exiting on a curve. I will show one more slide. So again, not very big, but this is the purple circles is the parks that have playgrounds in Strathroy. We've added to this since this master plan, but you'll see that this is, hold on, you're doing funny things. That's the fairgrounds right there. And just outside that purple circle is Southfield. Now, what you don't see is there's also other lands that Saxonville Estates, for example, doesn't have a park, doesn't have a playground, and so on. Then we've also built that subdivision that connects Ridge Street into that area as well. So that could create a case for reestablishing a playground type park on that parcel on Southfield.
Councillor Kaufman.
Yes, thank you. So it was myself that suggested that other piece of property, and the main reason that well, there's two reasons. The first was when I was reading and it said about the proximity of the Southfield Park to the co-op. You know, the reality is the people who are going to use a community garden are people who don't have a backyard to grow stuff themselves. And as much as bird flies, it's very close. It's kind of awkward to get to. If you were walking, say, from the co-op, you'd have to go down the street and around and over. So I thought that this would actually be a much closer proximity to people who would possibly use it. The other is that any community garden that I've ever seen ends up looking quite sloppy. And so the houses, none of the houses in that area would front face the community garden if it was there, whereas on Southfield there would be a number of properties that would be front facing, and if it does get unsightly, if people don't harvest their vegetables, then it wouldn't be to me as great as an impact to the neighbors. The other issue for me, Southfield Park, I know while it's close to the fairgrounds, Southfield has a large number of entry-level homes, I would say, given the number of semis and smaller houses on that street, which should lend to consistently being people with small children buying their first house. And so I would kind of like to see Southfield be redeveloped as a spot where maybe, you know, a kid can learn to throw a ball or use a baseball bat without, you know, of an age where they wouldn't be allowed to go over to the fairgrounds unsupervised, right? I guess that's my, that's what I would like to see happen with Southfield Park, and my concern about changing or moving away from that piece of property if we made it not possible to do something like that by putting the community garden in.
I don't think you're gonna have an objection from staff with regards to moving it to what I refer to as Warbler Woods. I don't know why I've named it Warbler Woods, but that's what I've done.
Street's name.
Is it, okay, there,
Sounds very posh.
it sounds very poshy. So I don't, now, as we are investigating community gardens and all that goes into running a community garden, it's becoming a little bit more than just tilling up some dirt and walking away, right? So we're talking about building raised planters. We're talking about leasing out the plots. So now we need to look at, you know, is there a need to test soils? Do we need, what type of water do we need to run? Are we gonna do it on who's managing? Are we gonna have mentors to talk to people who've never grown a garden, that kind of stuff. So staff are going to be taking a webinar up in November to kind of learn more about community gardens, and we need to be pulling together a program prior to launching. Now, what we need though, we haven't put a lot of work into it yet because we don't want to put all this effort into it to have council say, well, we're not prepared to support that. And because there's only 3 of us in the office. So, you know, time focused on one thing is time taken away from something else. So what I'm hoping for from this group is a recommendation for council to support a community garden. And if we can all agree on the property of what I've coined Warbler Woods, I don't have a better name for it, then we can go to council with that recommendation, and then if it's supported, then we can continue with developing the program. We do have a service club who's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, has committed $10,000, which can be matched with PTP funds of $5,000. So we have a start of $15,000. On that garden. So we can we have a bit of seed money to do it. So I'll leave it there.
Any other questions regarding the community garden proposal? Councillor Belton.
Maybe I might make a suggestion of changing the name to Trout Park, because isn't that Trout Creek?
Works for me.
What was that?
It's on Spence Drive too. I call it Spence Drive.
I guess the water supply, do we know where the water, obviously there's water down Southfield, but is there water that covers that stretch of Spence?
There is water that will cover Spence, but in the short term, we'd probably look at putting in not a sand point, because we'd need to test the water, but we'd put in like a container that we'd fill up on a regular basis.
If anybody wanted an example of a well-used community park, if you're going to the Costco on the north end of London, the apartment buildings there have a very well-seasoned community garden that's used heavily. I always see people in it, but you can see what I mean about how it, at times of the year, it doesn't look the prettiest.
Steve.
Has there been a demand from the public for something like this? Like, have people approached us and said, you know, if you put that here, I would definitely look at renting a plot on that. For me, Strathroy, if it was gonna go somewhere, it should go near an apartment building or somewhere where somebody doesn't have any land and they're looking at doing something like this. Looking at this, we got most houses here that I think people, if they wanted to grow a few vegetables and stuff like that, could throw it in their backyard and wouldn't have much of a problem doing that. And if it's people that, you know, that they're looking at starting this as a hobby or something like that, then maybe I could see it. But if we're looking at more, we're supplying people that don't have any land with the ability to grow their own food type of idea. I personally don't think Strathroy is, you know, needs that type of thing. But I'd be willing to say if you put flowers in there, if you did a whole bunch of flowers, people would grow way more flowers and might sell them. But that's just my thinking. Vegetable wise, I think Strathroy has an abundance of vegetable suppliers all around us, and they supply us pretty well all year round.
Okay, I guess the question to you was, what's the demand?
So we haven't done a public consultation. That would be part of the, once we get some work done with regards to the program, as well as a layout from our landscape architect with regards to how things are gonna look, that's when we would go to public consultation. One of the reasons why this location was chosen was because of Gills and Gills. Yeah, thanks, Brad. Yeah, no. The cooperative housing complex that's located pretty much across the street, which they don't have that access to green space to be growing fruits and vegetables. So that's one of the reasons why that location was chosen. If we had the ability to put it in more of a central location that has apartment buildings and so on, then that would be ideal, but we don't. But Steve, we haven't had an abundance of people calling us. We've had people contact us, but not an abundance.
Paul.
The idea for the community garden started more as a programming piece on top of our junior trades program and adding horticulture to the to the menu. So that's where this really stemmed from, and something that we wanted to, because growing gardens is something that's become a bit of a lost art for people, and certainly that gap in age groups. And as we've had the junior chefs already, again, where it stemmed from, it'd be great if we grew our own vegetables, and then you could use them in the same program, and it could transition from program to program. So it started as that, and then it blossomed into more of something for the community to use as well. So,
Councillor Pelton.
Yeah, I think at this point, you know, obviously community groups come forward willing to support it with some finances, so it deserves to be investigated. I think that we should be careful about user fees and stuff, because that could potentially price the people out who could benefit the most from it. But I think that, that location, given that there's a large rental facility right across the road, has a chance of success. That I think at this point, would the motion be that council supports the research into a community garden rather than say supports, because we don't know. If you're still looking into information, then
Can we identify the location so I can, so as part of the research, we would get some drawings done and we'd go out for some public consultation. Because I wouldn't want to be putting something in this area without letting the residents know that back onto it, because that may be a bit of a concern for them. Because it's, well, we know that some people take advantage of the free space that's behind their homes. But we need to, circulate, I'd probably say 150 meters, a questionnaire, and get some input from the residents in the area. So if we can identify the space, have council direct staff to continue with the investigation and working with the community partner to develop a plan, if that's okay.
Councilor Feldman?
yeah, I'd be more than happy to make that motion.
Are you able to voice the motion so the committee is aware of what's going on here?
I thought Rob worded it quite well, actually.
Well, and there was a name change in the discussion too, correct?
Yeah, so I think that the motion should read that CDAC move that council supports the concept of a community garden placed at the address of whatever that property is.
Yeah.
And that would be replacing the recommendation we have on the agenda, correct, Rob?
Yeah, and direct staff to develop a plan.
Yes.
To bring back to council.
What he said?
What he said.
Melanie and I can pull that together from the video.
Do we have a seconder on that large motion? Councilor Pam, are you seconding or you have a question? Second, okay.
I have a question.
Okay, quick one, yeah, go ahead.
So are we trying to take this and turn it into a potential rec program or a camp? Is that the idea, or we're gonna just lease these out to whoever wants to lease them? Because I don't know how many people grow a garden here in your life, if you have. I do every year, a big one, and it's a daily adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So if you aren't attending that thing daily, you will have ragweed as high as this roof.
Yeah.
And you will spread that seed to everybody else's thing. And maybe we need if we're gonna do that, we need to make sure people are educated on that. Like, it's a commitment. We can't turn this into going back and finding we've got 6 ragweed farms.
Yeah, so the question is to the intent.
So the intent is twofold. One is there is the potential for us to do a gardening program with the youth within the community, as well as seniors. But we're also, when we develop the program, we'll have to create guidelines and rules that are associated with it, right? So if we find a garden that is unkept, then there would be a process in which we would, the municipality could, and I'm just saying this because I haven't developed all of this, but could then, if it's been unattended for 3 weeks in a row, and that we come in and we remove everything, right? Or the municipality takes it over and the food that's grown there gets given to Women's Rural Resource Center or something to that nature. We do have a horticultural technician who is employed by the municipality that has the knowledge and experience with regards to gardening. So we do look to tap into that individual's knowledge and expertise with regards to that as well.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the table. Sorry, Councilor Pammer.
I was just gonna say that, this isn't a new concept. There's probably a dozen of them in London. So, and I'm sure the training that the team is gonna do will help address all those issues like overgrowth, and if people aren't caring, and how to deal with that in a way that, isn't penalizing people, but respecting the neighbors and respecting the other gardeners. So I think that most of what you're referring to is probably going to be addressed and be addressed by those people who've done it previously. And just regard to the need, I think, you know, having it near a cooperative is great. Seniors too, who may live in some of the apartments, you know, a lot of them still have a car, so, you know, they might come, doesn't mean they would be excluded, or other people who live in other rental apartments in town, you know, could, you know, find their way there, most likely by car or walking. Having been at the Women's Rural Resource Center, we had discussed this over 10 years ago, because they're, you know, food insecurity is an ongoing issue, and I would say it's probably even a bigger issue today with the price of vegetables having, you know, outpaced everything else in the last few years. So, but I certainly think doing some sort of survey is a good idea, but we should also talk to, you know, community service providers, people that work regularly with people who may be, you know, in need of some affordable food, or may struggle to pay for food.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a seconder? Adrian. All in favor? Carried. Good discussion, thank you. 7.5, Arena Committee. You're sending this to Councillor Peltman?
I just put it on the agenda just for an update where we're at. And if Councillor Peltman wants to take it from me, that's perfect.
Just very quickly to update, we did put out tenders for the soil testing at the Caradoc Community Center site, which included also the soccer fields. There's some soil sampling going on there, just to see while we're that something can actually be built there, because the reality is council's not at a point in their budget discussions to move the project forward at this point anyways. So this is something that could be done in the meantime, and there was already money allocated for that. What I don't know is I know the tenders have been awarded, but what the time frame is for completion of that work.
I don't have that timeline as of yet. I'm hoping within the next 6 weeks that all that gets completed, but I don't have a timeline as of yet.
Okay. Any questions for Councillor Peltman regarding the Mount Bridges Arena / recreational facility? Steve, go ahead.
Have they looked at a potential cost of that yet? Have you guys looked into that?
So at the public meeting, or prior to the public meeting, the architect was explaining that there's 3 different costing criteria. So first, at this point, we're still at a higher level where we've allocated square footages to certain areas, and at the moment, you know, they're just applying a base cost per square foot based on examples of construction going on at the present time. The second set will be once drawings are in place, and then they'll start to cost out how much steel would they need and stuff like that. And then the third and final costing would be at the point of tender, where you're actually getting one more. When we're talking about fixtures and like what kind of.
So right now we have just a base square foot price off the construction consumer index. It's an organization that does this across Canada. Then they would do a Class D costing off of 60% drawings, and then they go out for a Class B costing, which is at 75 or 80% completion, and then we would go out for tender. So there's 3 opportunities to get different pricings. So Class D, Class B, and then tender.
And we're only at the first one.
Okay.
So what were we kind of looking at per square foot, and how many square feet is this facility you guys are kind of proposing?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember the square footage. Based off of the pricing that that's from this, I think it's called Atlas Group. You're sitting around $30 million, somewhere around there. But again, that all needs to be tightened up, right? That's just a best guess at this point. So depending on what steel comes in at and all
I
that.
can go over some of the spaces that are in that drawing so you can have an idea of sizing. So obviously the rink itself is NHL size. There are 6 dressing rooms plus 7 dressing rooms if you include the Mount Bridges team, plus 2 ref rooms. There's a double gymnasium. There is a kitchen that would be a fully outfitted kitchen as opposed to a warming center, so that we could run the junior chefs program out of there, and also do have banquet capabilities. And then we would have a multi-purpose room, which is approximately the same size as the Westcast room at the Gemini.
And that was gonna fit in that area?
Yes.
Remember, you guys had a few issues on what would actually fit in there, right?
Yes.
That would fit in.
What I can't describe to you is the size of the lobby, and it's sizable. I wouldn't even know what to compare it to, but it's larger than the lobby at Gemini.
Is the arena committee still meeting, or is it just up with council now?
Temporarily not. This was something that we could do in the meantime to do the costing. The next discussion has to happen at budget process to be allocating funds and.
Okay, so no, I'm just asking because some of those details, people at home were welcome to view that meeting as well,
Yep.
right?
And even a formal decision that is actually the site that we're gonna build on has not yet been made, because we can't make that decision until we know if we can actually build on it,
Correct.
which is
Okay.
why the testing is being done.
Thank you, Councillor Poe. 7.6, Medal of Distinction, Director Lilburn.
I put that on the agenda because it seems we've had 3 nominations, Paul. The Medal of Distinction is an awards program that the municipality has come up with to honor the volunteers within our community. It is meant to be the highest honor that a volunteer can receive from the municipality. We have run this now for 4 or 5 years.
2017.
2017 was the first year. The last couple of years we've had to extend the nominations because we haven't been receiving nominations. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're hoping that this committee, if you know of anybody or if you know of a group of people that you may want to mention it to, different sporting groups and so on. Like I know minor soccer as an example, or minor hockey, or minor baseball, or scouting. There's always 1 or 2 individuals in those organizations that keep those organizations moving forward. Those, to me, are some of the volunteers that would fit within the definition of this program. And we haven't been receiving those types of individuals, right? So we communicate this to all of the organizations. We let them know. Staff, this committee have the ability to nominate individuals as well. It just doesn't need to come from the general public.
And the deadline is September 30th, correct?
Correct.
Councillor Pammer.
So just confirming, Rob, you have reached out to those organizations, to the boards, asking for because it reminds me, like years ago, Trillium used to do this sort of thing, volunteer recognition in communities. And so as a not-for-profit, we would get the letter from Trillium, and we basically would be asked to put forth 2 names of volunteers with our organization. So have you taken that approach? Because there would be hundreds at those ceremonies.
So we haven't asked for 2 nominations. We essentially just provided them with the application package. It's a blind nomination as well. So when the nomination gets to the committee, we don't know who it is. Because we're a small community. So if someone was to have their name in there, that may influence those that are making the decision. So we eliminate all reference of the individual to try to make it as fair as possible. Now, we may have had some really good applicants, but the write-ups, or nominees I should say, but the write-ups didn't do them justice. So we as staff can't sit there and say, yeah, but, right? So when people make the nomination, they need to make sure that it's a detailed nomination on why that individual should be selected. That may be a different approach, Donna, that we could look at. I'd have to look at the package to see if we may need to change the terms of reference. I don't know if that would be acceptable at this point, but it doesn't mean we can't look at it.
Councillor Paulman.
Yeah, I was a huge supporter of this when it first came out, and I know I've nominated 3 people who are on the list. But I think every year it catches me by surprise that the deadline is September 30th. And I think maybe the time of the year might be the issue, as all people are coming back from the summer, and all of a sudden the deadline is like, boom, right in your face. And you don't really have time to put together, like I've been thinking of a couple that I would like to nominate. But here we are already the 11th of September, and I'm like, I don't even know if I have the time to get the background information.
Councillor Paulman, I'm not sure if you follow local media or whatnot, but local media runs a story on it.
Touche.
It's not on Facebook anymore. So the comment about the deadline, it's fair. However, not to put anybody on the spot, the deadline is actually May. We've extended it to September 30th, right? And I don't know how else we do it. Maybe the market, maybe next year when we're doing the market, we have nomination packages out there and we start talking about the program in the public a little bit more face to face. Maybe we need to attend some AGMs of minor sporting organizations and try to pump the program there. Because, you send this to the executive of an organization, they're all busy, right? And does it just get put on the president's desk or the secretary's desk and then just kind of gets forgotten about? That's possible too. Or it just goes in an inbox and never gets opened.
Councillor Kramer, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just think if you reached out to some local not-for-profits like CMHA and Women's Resource Center, they are always looking for ways to recognize their great volunteers. And I think if you hit the directors up directly with some pretty clear directions to a page with a nomination, I would think that they might be interested. Same with Rotary and Lions, right? It's an optimist.
Councillor Paulman.
I know the impact that it has for the individuals that are nominated, especially since it's a blind nomination. I nominated Avery Bishop because he ran the Santa Claus Parade for like 30 years, incredible commitment that was kind of unsung. He didn't get a lot of publicity out of it, other than he was in a car for the parade every year. And I remember when he received the award, his whole family was there, and there was a lot of tears. So to be recognized for something that you've done willingly, I think is super important.
Any other, Brad?
Yeah, I think I've been around for most of the past presentations, and I think the people that's won them, they were really, it meant a lot. I think this is, so the need of the thing is there. I would hate to see it drop and fall off, but I actually thought the deadline was May too, because I have one now that I didn't have in May. But I do have somebody I'll bring down to you, Rob.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for the Medal of Distinction? The current deadline is September the 30th. And the information's on the municipality website under, where do they go, Rob?
If someone's interested and they're watching online, it's under go to the municipality's website, go to Getting Active, and there is a link right there called Medal of Distinction.
Okay. Oh, Councillor Paulman.
And every award winner is listed on there under the previous years, right? So if you're looking to see if somebody has been nominated, you can check.
Okay. Inquiries or comments by members will go around the shoe. We'll start with Councillor Palmer.
Nothing to add, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Wendy.
I'm good.
Councillor Falkman.
I think I've talked enough tonight.
I think you have as well, sir. I'm just kidding. Paul?
I just want to throw a shout out to Brad Sheeler for his work at the pool. Morgan Lalick was our head guard. She was awesome as well. Also, should throw it out to both Emily Thus, who was our camp director, and Lily Wood was the assistant. And they handled this summer great with all the numbers that we had. Two things that I mentioned before about recreation is we started our women's soccer league. We had 79 ladies that played in that league, and that went really well. Chris ref that for us. He was one of them, so he probably can comment just as well. And our beach volleyball, just to throw a shout out to the PTP program that I want to say we had 158 registrations between the co-ed women and the co-ed volleyball league, the women's volleyball league, and then our youth program. So that stuff's getting used, and people are again another pump of the fairgrounds getting used a lot. So good stuff going on.
Yeah, just a comment to the soccer. What Paul was saying, we actually officiated the first place match and the third place match last night. Last night that was it for the season, and it went pretty good. As the season progressed, more and more spectators went to the soccer field. We played it at the stadium field on York Street, and it was a good turnout. We had probably, I would say, for the first place match, we probably had about 50, 60 people in the stands. So for adult women's recreational soccer on a Sunday night, that's pretty good. So the ladies did a great job all season long. We had no problems as officials whatsoever. So it was very successful. Darren?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Brad?
Yeah, back in the early part of the summer, I had the pleasure of working with the Senior Games Committee, and this is here in Perth, Middlesex. It's called Zone 29, as you can see on my shirt. And if you're in that area, you compete in that area. It's like a mini Olympics, and it's there's 21 different games they partake in. I ran the golf tournament for them this year, and we had a pretty good turnout. And then the winners go on to the Jarrett Championships, which this year was in Brantford. And I think one of our golfers made it to the finals, as far as I know. I haven't seen him since then, but I think he made it there. But it's something along the line we talked about seniors programming earlier. Maybe it's something we could tie into that here to get more people involved in it. So, but it was a good time for the summer.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Adrian?
Nothing, thank you.
All right, thank you. Steve?
This summer, my wife and I, we bought e-bikes because we're getting older, getting a little lazier. And we toured the different bike trails in Grand Bend, Sarnia, St. Thomas, Port Stanley, and here. And we did London's bike trail and started off in Byron. And that bike trail was excellent. It was clean, it's fast, lots of people. We got into East London and the bike trail became full of garbage. Tons of people camped out. Facilities that we would use for the washrooms had vagrants all around it. My wife couldn't go to the washroom because people were camped out. In fact, it turned us all off to ever going down that bike trail again. And when we talked to other bikers, they indicated the same thing. In fact, it was quite scary. Our other places we toured, Sarnia was excellent. Port Stanley was excellent as well. All clean, kept neat, those type of things. Strathroy, I found, wasn't too bad. Underneath the bridge, I found there was enough graffiti there that it could have covered 10 walls. Our bike trails weren't super well kept, but I can see that they have to be tar and chip because it might be washed away. My point of this all is that if we don't make sure that the facilities we have are kept clean, neat, and tidy, and that people that are not there to use the facilities are not using them, then I think that we'll find that the people that would normally use these as recreational areas will not want to come to them. And I just wanted to point that out as we're part of the community development, that it's nice to develop all these things, but we have to keep them in a certain condition if we expect people to use them. And I don't know going into the winter season if this will become a problem for us in our arenas or in our parks or in our stuff like that. But I think in some way staff should be aware and council should be aware that if they're going to let this happen in our facilities, that we will find that people will be turned off by that and we will lose people.
Good comment, thank you very much. Jagger?
I just wanted to make mention of the fact that I did see a lot of activity at the fairgrounds over the summer. People using the new amenities and whatnot. And I just wanted to maybe perhaps echo some concern regarding space and the year-over-year growth of our programs. I think there needs to be some cognizance of that space, and those numbers are going to continue to grow based on, you know, not only municipalities' immigration numbers, but I mean countrywide. So, but otherwise, I thought there was a lot of good use of our amenities over the summer, and I was happy to see it.
Okay, thank you. Sherry?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Director Littlemore?
I think I've talked second most next to Steve tonight, so I'm done.
And I have nothing other than to let the committee know our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, October the 10th, 7 p.m. And we need a mover for adjournment. Brad, seconder, Councilor Kaufman. Thank you very much for tuning in at home and for being here this evening. Have a good night.